It's a warm and sunny afternoon in South Philadelphia as the Eagles are set to welcome the Detroit Lions for today's matchup, 1 p.m. kickoff. Look at it, beautiful day, sun is shining, and we are here to take you up to kickoff. I'm Amy Campbell, Fran Duffy right by my side, as always, on the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. Fran, the Eagles looking to bounce back from that road loss to the Falcons. Almost still one on the road to the Falcons, a really tough loss. They welcome the Lions, who have yet to lose. They are 1-0-1, tied with the Cardinals there in week 1. What do you think the Eagles need to do to really bounce back today and get this win?
Well, Amy, there's a saying in coaching, and it goes, never let the same opponent beat you twice. So really what that means is, the Eagles, they go on the road last week. They face all that adversity, a very tough matchup against a desperate Atlanta team. You come out of that game with a loss. You can't let that beat you this week. It was a shorter week because you're coming back late on Sunday night. You have the injuries mount up. You can't let that beat you here against a hungry Lions team that's trying to keep pace in a very talented NFC North. So that's one of the big things for this game here today. The Eagles coaches know it. The players know it. You can't let the Falcons beat you twice.
And look, they're focused on today, but heading into a tough stretch. You mentioned coming back from Sunday night game. Look, they're about to play 2 games in 5 days with Thursday night on the road at Green Bay. So a tough stretch ahead. Let's head out to Lincoln Financial Field right now and take a look at the players as they are warming up, getting ready to take on the Falcons in this matchup. We've got some creative stuff going on offense with Alshon Jeffrey officially inactive, Deshaun Jackson officially inactive today, Corey Clement as well. Here we have Malcolm Jenkins. He's healthy and dependable always. He really the cornerstone of this defense. Yeah,
I think and he's going to be a big part of stopping T.J. Hockenson, the talented first-round pick for the Detroit Lions, who's been very productive through 2 weeks. He is a player that the Eagles have to watch out for in this game, particularly, Amy, off of play action. You look back at the first 2 games that the Eagles have played, and Eagles opponents have done a really good job with these run fakes. That'll be something to watch today.
All right, and here we have the starting defense. Really big, highlight it, circle it right here. Defensive tackle Hassan Ridgeway gets the starting nod after we saw Malik Jackson done for probably the season, and Tim Jernigan out for we don't know how long, but it's going to be a little bit for him to come back. A couple injuries there. Hassan Ridgeway gets the starting nod there in the Eagles' defensive line.
Yeah, and the big thing to know about Hassan Ridgeway is this is a guy, and I've studied him going back to his days at the University of Texas. He is an explosive upfield rusher, and playing in the NFL up to this point, he hasn't really been asked to just cut it loose and get upfield. So you see that first step quickness, that ability to make plays on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. That's where he excels. So when you look at Hassan Ridgeway today, I don't know what the box score is going to look like. I don't know how many TFLs he's going to have, how many sacks he's going to end up with. But I know this, he's going to be creating opportunities for some of his teammates because he can get out of his stance very quickly and create havoc on the opposite side of the line.
And I loved hearing from Ridgeway in the locker room this week. Really love his vibe, love his energy. He said, look, there's no extra pressure. The pressure has been on since I got here. I've had to prove it every day. He's ready to do that again today. Here we have Avonte Maddox at corner again. I've loved what we have seen from him just as he continues to develop in his second year. He just gets better and better, Fran.
Yeah, and he's a guy that when you look at his ability to play inside, outside, no matter what, just brings so much value to this Eagles defense, and you love his play personality as well.
All right, and here we're taking a look at the offensive line. Lane Johnson, he said this week, this is a must-win game. It's going to be a good one in the trenches between the Lions and the Eagles. What are you looking to see? Well, here, let's talk about the starting lineup here. Couple of different names. Mac Hollins is getting a start, and as well as J.J. Arcega-Whiteside with some of the injuries. Fran and Dallas Goedert active, not starting, but with some of the injuries, we're going to see some different stuff there. What do you think about these young guys starting to get some more opportunity?
Yeah, we saw them last week, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, he'll step in as, kind of the quasi Alshon Jeffrey role, and Mac Hollins will step in and do some of the things that Deshaun Jackson has done in the past for this team. But ultimately, both guys are different, right? So they're not going to do all of the same things, but you'd like to be able to see Mac Hollins get down the field and be that vertical stretch weapon for this Eagles offense. You want to be able to see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside make some plays in the red zone or make some plays within contested situations up and over a defender. Those are the strengths of their games that those guys bring to the table. The Eagles will look to kind of capitalize on that here today.
All right, and let's go back to the offensive line. What are you looking for in the trenches there?
Well, a little bit of a bounce back because it wasn't their best game last week, right? So, coming off on a really aggressive front against Atlanta, we talked about that in last week's kickoff show, that it was a very good group. Grady Jarrett and Tack McKinley, the rest of that group there with the Falcons. It's not as good up front here for Detroit. You don't have a primary pass rusher that you say, wow, we really have to make sure we stop this guy from getting to the quarterback. But it is a very multiple group, a very versatile group. You don't know how they're going to line up on any one given snap. What you see before the snap is going to be different than afterwards. So the way that they mix things up, it's going to be more of a mental game, an assignment game for this Eagles offensive line here against the Lions.
And of course, that is a unit that is healthy, so that's good news, especially when you've got some injuries in the wide receiving core. What are you looking to see from Carson Wentz today? Really, I thought he looked amazing in last week's game, did some crazy superhuman things, but also really made things I think, he was a big reason that the Eagles were in that game the way that they were, especially given the last-minute injuries to the offense.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what I just said about the offensive line, where what you see before the snap is not necessarily what you're going to see afterwards. To me, the big thing in this game, and I don't want to give away my key to the game, take advantage of what the defense gives you. If you have a favorable matchup, no matter what area the field is in, if it's deep, short, intermediate, no matter where it is, take advantage of it, get the ball out quickly, let your guys go make plays. He's done that throughout the course of this season so far. We've seen him make the check down throw. We've seen him be aggressive when need be, press the football down the field. Sometimes the situation calls for that. Sometimes it asks you to go short. Sometimes it asks you to go intermediate. Wherever that matchup opens up in this game, it's going to be very, very big because it's a very aggressive man coverage scheme there for Detroit.
Well, and one thing that Carson said earlier this week in his press conference that really stood out to me was, look, we're not asking J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to be Alshon Jeffrey. We're not asking Matt Collins to be Deshaun Jackson. We want them to be themselves.
Yep.
We're going to put them in a position to succeed. We're going to take what the defense gives us, and we're going to go from there. So really strong leadership on his part. And gosh, if I'm those guys, I'm feeling extremely confident in my quarterback. And he even went on to talk about how he has really taken the time to build the relationship with those guys and build that trust. And so, hey, if I'm either of those young players, obviously JJ, the rookie there, I'm really excited for this quarterback who I feel like gets me, wants me to be in a position to succeed, and I don't feel that pressure like it's all on my back to make things happen.
Yeah, and I think, too, if you take that just to a coaching standpoint, that's what made last week so difficult to be able to judge as an evaluator and as an analyst, because, when you have to make those moves, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, he's not Alshon Jeffrey. Matt Collins, he's not Deshaun Jackson. So you go into a whole week of preparation expecting those guys to be in the lineup, expecting Dallas Goedert to be in the lineup, and then last minute for them not to be there. That throws everything off. So you're trying to, if you lose all those pieces at once, it really asks you as a coaching staff to really kind of work on the fly. All right, let's try and get things, remake this game plan, and let's go attack Atlanta.
Well, and Coach Mike Rowe and Doug Peterson mentioned it this week after last week's game. Look, this is maybe the first time in their careers that they remember losing two receivers and a tight end right before or in the first few plays of the game like last week. So now having a whole week to do that, we're going to see some different stuff from them today. We're going to head back to Lincoln Financial Field and check in with the Eagles insider, Dave Spadaro, to hear his storylines, his keys to the game. Dave, what are you looking to see?
Hi, guys. I think the obvious storyline here is the injury situation for the Philadelphia Eagles, and a lot's been certainly talked about with the offense, and obviously you're losing a lot of firepower in the pass game. But on defense, Tim Jernigan's loss is a huge one for this football team, compounded with the loss of Malik Jackson. That was going to be a strength, defensive tackle. Deep, strong, aggressive, making big plays. The hallmark of Jim Schwartz's defense has always been a great defensive line. The Eagles not getting home through two games in this 2019 season. My key to the game goes hand in hand with that. The Eagles have given up way too many big plays down the field. By my count, the Falcons on Sunday night took 8 deep shots against the Eagles. They're looking for quick scores, and they made some big plays. And the Eagles have allowed 3 touchdown passes of 45-plus yards. And quarterbacks Case Keenum and Matt Ryan have missed other open receivers down the field. So somehow, whether it's a combination of the Eagles getting the pass rush going, taking a lead offensively, something they haven't done this year, the secondary playing better, Eagles must limit those X plays. That's what Detroit likes to do. They like to play action, throw it down the field. Kenny Golladay, the best wide receiver you don't know, he's going to be a big challenge for an Eagles defense that has allowed 6 of its last 8 receivers, number 1 receivers in the last 8 weeks, including the playoffs, to go over the 100-yard mark. They must tighten that up today. Back to you guys at the NovaCare Complex.
All right, great stuff from Dave Spadaro, as always. Of course, I've heard of Kenny Golladay, but maybe that's because I play fantasy football, but I know how dangerous this guy can be in the passing game. Fran, what is your key to the game for the Eagles?
Well, to me, it's, I mentioned a little bit earlier, Amy, is that this is a big, aggressive man coverage defense here with Detroit. Same scheme that the Eagles saw 595 days ago. February 4th, 2018, Super Bowl 52. You guys may remember it. A big game where the Patriots played a ton of man coverage. So if you're going to bust out that game plan here today, what does that mean from a coaching standpoint? You're going to see crossing routes. You're going to see wheel routes, pick plays, screen passes, the deep ball. The 2 ways to beat man coverage are with matchups and with scheme. Without Deshaun Jackson, without Alshon Jeffrey, you've got a little bit of a limited Dallas Goedert. If the Eagles don't feel like they can win all those matchups on an individual basis, now I'm excited to see what are they going to do schematically to open some things up, because they absolutely can do that against this Detroit front.
Well, we heard Doug Peterson and Mike Rowe mention this week that this defense for the Lions is basically the same defense that the Patriots had, so plenty of familiarity there, and definitely a tough one to attack as well. For me, I'm looking at the Eagles' run game. It was an Achilles heel last season, something they addressed in the offseason, adding Jordan Howard, drafting Miles Sanders. We saw them really get going in the first game, but against the Falcons really struggled. 46 yards on 16 carries combined there. And of course, with the injury to Corey Clement, they have Darren Sproles in the backfield as well. So 3 running backs going into today's game, especially with some of the injuries to the wide receiving core. They're going to be relying on that run game. Need to see some more balance as well. So that's really what I'm looking to see from there. All right, let's head back over to Lincoln Financial. Let's check in with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick. Who are they looking to see? Take it away, Merrill.
Amy, this is probably the last real summer-like day of the football season, because next week the Eagles are in Green Bay, and by the time they come back, it will really be autumn. But, Mike, who is your player to watch today?
Guys, my player to watch is that number 86. I look at the Detroit Lions, and I look at the way they play defense. There's going to be a lot of man coverage, and if you look at it, Zach Ertz has not had a big game yet. I think today is the day that Zach Ertz has a big game, somewhere in that 10-catch category. That's going to be my player to watch. I think he's going to really affect this defense.
Well, the player that the Eagles can't let have a great day is Matthew Stafford. He is one of the really elite quarterbacks, even though he doesn't get that kind of attention because he's never had that kind of surrounding cast. So my player to watch is number 91, the best player on the defense, and that is Fletcher Cox. It is time for him to play like Fletcher Cox. He's coming off an injury, but he is a disruptive force. So if Fletcher Cox, the defense, gets after Matthew Stafford, we'll be talking about an Eagles win. Back to you, Amy.
Thank you, Merrill. Those guys are just the best. I love them. I also love what Merrill said about Fletcher Cox. Look, we have, he didn't play in the preseason, and so there has been a little bit of that rust. But this week we heard from him. He's feeling great. He feels like he's himself again. He's ready to go. And gosh, with some of the injuries there at that defensive tackle position, even more responsibility could be falling on his shoulders. So I hope we see that Fletcher Cox, who absolutely takes over a game, one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. And it sounds like it might be favorable for him today against the Lions.
Yeah, I think that there are definitely some matchups you can win along that Detroit offensive line. They've got a young group, especially on the interior. I feel like those are some matchups you can win, especially with a perfectly healthy Fletcher Cox. Don't downplay the fact that he didn't play this summer because of the injury that he suffered in the playoff loss to New Orleans. And just even coming back, playing on a new surface last week on the turf in Atlanta, your first road trip playing. I don't discount all that. I expect to see a full-strength Fletcher Cox here today.
And especially with the toe and the turf, and it's just not a great combination with all of those specifics. So, yes, I'm excited to see what we see from Fletcher today. We're going to take a quick break. We have to end our social media stream. So if you're watching on social, move on over to the Philadelphia Eagles app or PhiladelphiaEagles.com. We will be hanging out there for the rest of the show. On the other side of this break, Mike Quick goes one-on-one with safety Rodney McLeod, so you don't want to miss that. We'll see you in a minute.